there's any changes or additions to that, let me know. Otherwise, look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
And a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And that is approved. And next, we move on to our bills. John, is there anything you'd like to say on the bills?
Yeah, not too much on the bills this month. We had some brownfield review that is occurring at the United Building Center property, the stencil properties. That's probably the most significant thing.
Okay. So we look for a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that carries as well. The next line of business is the Confluence Fifth Amendment to the Purchase Development Agreement. So, sure, start with that.
Thank you, Mr. President, HEDRA Commissioners. Officially tonight, we've got two actions before you relating to the Confluence, which is the redevelopment of the former Hudson Manufacturing Building on the river downtown. First one is to authorize signature of the Fifth Amendment to the Purchase and Development Agreement. This Purchase and Development Agreement amendment would change the substantial completion date from October 31st of this year till May 31st of 2023, and would also obligate Confluence to execute a minimum assessment agreement. What the minimum assessment agreement does is it establishes a minimum valuation of the building, which is recognized by Dakota County, in which taxes are paid upon. A short answer is, when you're taking a look at the taxable revenues that the city would receive from the building, this would set a floor on that. So regardless of where Confluence is in their actual construction activity, there would be this minimum value established in which taxes would be levied on that. So good news for us. That means that we would have tax revenue coming in from the project here. Prior to these actions tonight and to the meeting, we did have a workshop that HEDRA participated in which we were able to take a tour of the building, see the progress that's been happening within there. I know the commission, the council, and the public here are very excited to see what's happening within the building, and we were able to see great activities and great progress that has been occurring there. Looking through the building now, it's taking its shape into a hotel, restaurant, banquet facility. You can see where the rooms are laid out, where the HVAC, electricals is going in. You could really get the shape of the building. On the outside of it, I think the public can see a lot of exterior improvements that have happened over the last 6 months or so, with the painting of the building, a lot of the window replacements that have going on, and the finishing up the site improvements as well. So this has been a long process, as we all know here. We took possession of the Hudson building at that time in 2010, started the project in 2009, and we're going to have a finished project in 2023, which will be a great symbol for the city. When we took a look at this project at the very beginning, we didn't know really what we wanted to see on that site, other than this was a time when we had the old Blue Bridge there, and we wanted to have a spot in Hastings that would be a place where people, when they crossed the new bridge, could look down and see this is something that would draw people into town, that we have to stop and see this. That was the goal that we established in wanting to acquire this property and going through all the work that we have. During the early part of the process here, we had a study that was done with the community in 2009. What should we do with it? Should we keep the building? Should we demolish the building? Frankly, probably been a lot easier to demolish that building, but we would not have had the type of development that we're seeing underway right today. It's taken a long time. There's been unexpected detours, costs, and other things, but we're very thankful for what has gone on in the building and the dedication of the staff and the developers in making this really come to fruition. And so when you take a look at the progress that's being made right now, I think we all can see what's occurring down there. So that's what I have before you tonight. I've got those two actions, the amendment to the Purchase and Development Agreement and then the Minimum Assessment Agreement, asking for authorization for signatures. This action by HEDRA tonight will also go to the City Council on the 17th. So we do have representatives from the Confluence here tonight if you have any questions for them, or I can take any questions as well. Thanks.
Any questions tonight?
Thanks, John. That was a good recap of what we've got going. I know I believe in the past we had the minimum assessment valuation. Has that been done in the past? I recall that it had.
It had not until, we had a Fourth Amendment to our development agreement, which obligated Confluence to enter into an agreement. Prior to that, we did not.
And the figure for the valuation assessment, what is it right now? What have we agreed to?
We have agreed to about $5.7 million. It's $5,733,294.
And did we have that figure before, or is this a new figure?
No, we had that figure before as part of the agreement in 2021, I believe.
Okay. And how did we come to that figure?
That was an agreement that we came upon with our financial advisors and Dakota County based upon the finished valuation, not the finished valuation, but the estimated finished valuation of the building.
That's a floor, so if
Right.
when everything's done, it's 6 million, we can obviously go
Exactly,
ahead
yeah.
and raise that.
That's the emphasis on minimum here.
Okay. And prior to that minimum value, assessment valuation was supposed to start in October, is that right?
Right, the way the last agreement was written was that if they had a substantial completion date of October 31st of 2022, and if they were not to meet that goal, then they would enter into this minimum assessment agreement. So what this is doing is it's fulfilling that obligation that was established in the Fourth Amendment to enter into that assessment agreement.
So we're waiving November and December.
Right, what we're doing is the minimum assessment agreement obligations, which we approved in 2021 with the last amendment, are still as they are. Those are unchanged. What is happening here is we have the actual minimum assessment agreement that we'll be adopting and recording, and we're taking that completion date of October 31st of this year, extending it out to May 31st of next year. So as far as the minimum assessment agreement goes, that is not affected by the date. The minimum assessment agreement will be effective January 1st, 2023. I know there's a lot of dates there.
But it would have gone from October 31st to January 1st, right?
I don't think that would be.
Okay,
it
that's
would
not
be-
accurate.
I don't think that would have been
Okay.
any change in that one. It would be that if they did not meet the completion date of October 31st, we'd enter into a minimum assessment agreement, and those are typically effective the first of the year.
Okay.
So I don't think that's unchanged.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so the group is here. Would anyone like to make a comment or talk on behalf?
There are several things that we'd like to
You can-
I'll say, unveil.
Hi, Becky. Can you come on up? Thanks.
So my name is Becky Rogers. I'm the Executive Vice President of IDM Hospitality Management. I was graced to be able to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain today at our facility. There are a couple of things that I guess I would want to add to what we've already shared with you. How do I make this go on the screen, John? So we have, our website will be launching tomorrow. So we wanted to wait to show you first what that's going to look like. Easy enough for you. So our splash page is going live so that we can start communicating with the local community about what's happening and show them some of the progress as well. Our social media pages also go live tomorrow. So we're excited to be launching this phase of our opening. It does give you a little bit more traction once we start doing the marketing pieces, right? It starts to feel a little bit more real. So we recognize that. A couple other milestones that will be coming with that. The splash page will turn into a regular website by December 1st. At that point, we will be accepting reservations for both the apartments, for meeting space, for hotel overnight guests. We have several lists of inquiries already in play for that. So I'll just quickly just kind of scroll through this to give you a sense. It does give you some information. It's committing to a spring 2023. You know, whatever's on the website's real, right? But it does give homage again, and you know, this isn't something we just speak. This is something we're living to the history of the building. For us, that's just an important element to keep bringing back. But then it's juxtaposed to the current, right? the modern look. How do we make that relevant again? So we're excited about that. Earlier today, you heard Mike talk about the town and country feel. We're really embracing that. We feel that that's very comfortable for Hastings. It appropriately represents what Hastings is without becoming a part of the St. Paul market. And for us, that's important. We want to be who we are. And that's a big part of what we talk about. The cupolas, as you know, there was the lighting event last year. Some of you were there for that. We're very proud of that. And you can see from our logo, I'll scroll all the way back up without making you too dizzy, that cupola is our image. We were embracing that in a lot of different ways. You'll see that often. It might be in the form of chocolate when you come to stay at the restaurant. But yeah, that's a really important part of what we do. I guess one of the things that I want to really point out, especially for those who might be viewing this at home, is we do have an inquiry site now on our website. So if you do have questions, please direct them to the website. It's just confluencehotel.com. Couldn't be simpler. And we'll be fielding these and collecting inquiries as we go live tomorrow. Probably the other piece that we haven't really talked about is staffing. I'm not going to talk about the labor market that it stands in today because none of us want to talk about that anymore. But I will share with you that when we look at the scope of this project, we're about 65 or 70 people will be hired in order for us to open this thing. And that's an important part of what we want to talk about too from an economic impact standpoint to your local citizens. We're really hopeful that they're going to be within that 10-mile radius of the Hastings market in the hospitality industry. Sometimes they need to be. We kind of go with the flow, and sometimes we get surprised by things. So I'm very much hopeful that we can staff up with about 65 or 70 people. We will start that hiring process here after the first of the year very aggressively. We're currently interviewing our opening general manager candidates now. We'll hire a director of sales and a chef here before the end of the year. So we're going to start ticking on some real feet on the ground movement into this operation. So it's an important thing I always like to talk about because it really does impact your local neighborhoods. Any questions I can field? Anything else I can help with?
Any questions for?
Anybody looking for a job? Just
Thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you for the tour today. It was
Oh, good.
very fun to see everything coming together, and it's going to be an awesome addition to our community, so thank you.
We'll bring you back again and show you more progress in a month or two.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So now we're looking for a motion to approve the Fifth Amendment.
Up to the decision of the commissioners, they can combine it into a single motion or take each one individually. That's up to the maker of the motion.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move it. So moved.
For both?
Second. For both?
Yes. Yep.
Second for both.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed, and that carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And now we have our reports and information, so.
Sure. Highway 61 update. Last meeting, we spoke about the Highway 61 reconstruction project, some of the planning that's been occurring here. HEDRA expressed some desire to become more informed and involved within that process itself. I did have a meeting this afternoon. We have a project management team that meets monthly on the progress, so we met a couple of hours today. They've got all the information aggregated from the last public information open houses they've had. They've also had the website in which they've had an opportunity for people to provide online comments and suggestions. Looking at the information that was shown today, they've received, I think, over 400 comments from individuals. I think they said 250 individual people that have reviewed this. When you take a look at how that compares to other projects, it's higher than what they would typically see. One thing that they noted was there was a pretty extensive survey that was involved with this, and the completion rate among that survey was substantially higher than they had anticipated. So all good news on that. As far as what did that all information mean or say, some mixed things on there. People wanted to see some better access opportunities along the corridor itself. People pointed out that there was a lot of entrances and exits to businesses that may not need to be there. They wanted to have a better aesthetic feeling going down the corridor. We had a healthy discussion on stoplights and roundabouts, and as you can imagine on the roundabout discussion, there can be some divergent opinions on that one. I guess the one thing that was universal on the roundabout discussion was the mini roundabouts that we see along Highway 316 are not something people want to see in the future, which is probably not a surprise to most here. But they are looking at some access improvement opportunities at potentially 36th Street, at 316, something new at 18th Street with traffic control, as well as some access closings throughout the corridor. What they're going to be doing is finalizing those plans. I believe they're coming back to the city council in November with a revision of some information on that one. What they're looking at from a time frame for the project for the preliminary, not preliminary design, but preliminary planning for the project is probably February of 2022. There will be one more open house that they will be conducting December or 23. Got my years right. This spring, there will be an open house. They will be holding another one coming up in either December or January. They haven't defined that time frame yet. So, sum it up: a couple of opportunities for public engagement, good public engagement. They're responding to that with design alternatives, and we'll bring back more refined alternatives to the public in the next month or two. So I can stand for any questions.
Any questions for John?
So are you saying that they're going to complete their design by spring of 2023?
The design, not the design of the roadway itself, but the planning design as far as generally we're going to do X, Y, or Z with intersections. That's what they're doing. As far as the final civil design, no, that'll take another year or so on that.
Okay. So when is the project supposed to start?
Project would start either 2026 or 2027. I've heard differing things in that as of late.
And it's a 12-month or longer?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to. I have to find that out.
Do we need to have some sort of opportunity for businesses that are impacted by it to approach us for help? Can we help facilitate some responses to challenges that might arise from it?
Sure. A couple of things related to that. There's the input of business owners along the corridor into what the corridor will become with the plans, and MnDOT is doing special engagement with business owners and working with the chamber on that end of it. And I think the other part of that question is we as a body, is there anything that we can do to assist people throughout that? And we have the revolving loan fund program. We also have remind me of the name of the grant fund that we established? The facade improvement program as well, that could be geared towards areas on Vermillion Street. As we look at the project when it moves forward into the construction phase, which, 2026, 2027, I think that's going to be a good topic for discussion as far as being able to determine whether further assistance is necessary to get people over the hump if it's a prolonged construction and disruption.
Any other questions for John or Eric? Okay. Thank you for doing that. I think it's an important part for the community to be engaged in those surveys, and I'm glad to hear that we have been, so that's great. Next, we have our shovel-ready development update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. An update there, Rocos, our broker, they've met with 9 developers to date with another 25 scheduled for this month. So they're really getting out there. They've provided John and I with a list of who they've met with and who they're going to be meeting with. We've provided an update to their offering manual, or offering memorandum, excuse me. So we're getting some interest already, which is good. Certainly no pen to paper, and that's when it gets real, of course. But just the fact that there are not many sites with this acreage in the metro remaining anymore. And so there's more and more excitement about and appetite for this development site. And so the fact that they've only just recently put it out to the broader market, so they kind of give people a sneak peek, say, hey, this is coming. Do you want to jump on it before we put it broad? And they said, we're interested. We got it out broadly now. And so we really want to see what we all might get. So we're excited. We have a standing meeting with Rocos the last Thursday of each month. John and I have to get an update from Marisa and her team as to what deals might be out there. Developers they're meeting with include both speculative and build-to-suit developers. So we could expect to see potential offers from either industry. They did note that with the rising interest rates, that they're seeing the speculative market take a pretty big hit. That now really before they're going to put any shovels in the ground, they want to see a building leased up 50 to 75% of space. Prior to that, there's some large projects going in Cottage Grove that still need to be built. Enclave is doing one of those, which is also a developer for the apartments by County Crossroads here in Hastings. They dabble in both industries, and so the industrial market at least is kind of looking to see what the absorption rate is on that project prior to then moving just a little bit further south to our land. So general update for HEDRA this evening, no requested action, but already some interested developers, which we're excited about.
That's great. Any questions for Eric? Sounds good. We'll move forward then with our update on the Makers Market surveys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, no formal action on this one, just more so an update to HEDRA, just because this does take up a fair amount of staff time from HEDRA staff. So we got response from 19 of 32 vendors, so we more than doubled our unique vendors from last year, which we were excited about. And the biggest question, in my opinion, that was on there was whether or not it was a good use of time for them. To me, that's, did you come and did you make money? Would you come again? And 15 of 19 respondents said that, in fact, was a good use of their time. So I certainly don't think anybody was retiring following attending, but the fact that they found it was a good use of their time. And I also noted that we had a number of vendors that were not from Hastings that said, hey, I've never been here. And they even noted on their comments that, even if sales were low, sitting by the river, listening to the music, once they moved kind of out of the alley and along that walkway, what a great evening it was. And then sales were kind of a bonus. So I think that's really nice that it'll slowly get out further and further for vendors from various areas that, hey, you can come here and hopefully you make a few bucks and it's a great night. They did note in terms of some constructive feedback, additional marketing of the markets themselves would be more helpful, and signage, especially along 2nd Street, to remind people, hey, this is where it is. And then they also noted that sales seem to vary a lot with the musical performance that evening, that if it was one, and I suppose it makes sense, if it's a more lively band, then maybe it brings more people down. More people means more shoppers, more potential sales. And so that's something community development staff and park staff we're going to collaborate on and get a sense for what their music scheduling is and try and align our markets with the bands that they know will bring some of the bigger crowds. We did not have, I should say, a registration fee for this year. We made it free to sign up and attend because we didn't want to have that barrier knowing it was new, with the caveat being that, hey, if you didn't show up, then you're not going to be invited back. We did have some issues with some no-shows, and that unfortunately did take away from some evenings where, we've got them all lined up, and then you got vendor, 20 feet of open space, and then another vendor, and it kind of disjoints the evening. We asked the vendors, hey, if we did do a fee, because we kind of had an issue with this, even after, saying don't do it, what would you be comfortable with? And about that $20 mark was where they said that they thought, I think this is enough skin in the game to make sure people show up, but also isn't so cumbersome that it'll be a barrier to my signing up or not making enough money to make it worth my time. And so we'll likely look for a 2023 fee schedule amendment to include that fee for staff to charge for vendors to sign up. That's my report on that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Or
If you did add that fee, how much are you talking for the whole summer?
Likely it would be in that range of $20 per evening.
Total though, per evening.
Per evening signed up, yeah.
19 vendors times 6 evenings. What are you talking?
Right, yeah. So if say we've got we did 8 this last year, and so it'd be 160. Maybe it's something we look at and say, hey, if you're going to sign up for all of them, maybe you get a discount if you sign up for all of them. We got to figure that out by charging some sort of fee, nominal fee.
Sure.
Okay. Moving forward to our development updates.
Few things going on around town right now, which is always great. Intech Plastics, we've been able to assist with some of their activities. They continue to move along. They brought the site plan for the 60,000 square foot addition to Planning Commission on Monday. That was recommended unanimously for approval with no discussion. That's going to go to council coming up on Monday night. So that, along with the assistance from the state and the commitment now, to move forward on this project, it's wonderful. This is going to be a great addition for the city with the jobs and to see another established Hastings business grow. We also have a new construction or new plans coming in here. We've got Therapy Ops, which is a speech, occupational, and physical therapy business, which is looking for approvals to construct a 2,300 square foot building right by AutoZone at Westview Drive and South Frontage Road. That is scheduled to go to Planning Commission on the 24th. And they're looking to potentially even start construction of that this year. Sweet Living of Hastings got their approvals. That's another 32-unit senior housing facility at 33rd and Vermilion Street. They are looking for a spring construction at this standpoint. We're going through their final civil approvals on that to get them started for the spring. Lake Isabel Flats has broken ground. That's the stencil development on the former UBC property. So they've demolished the house on site. They've taken up some of the concrete, and they're going to town there, which is wonderful to see. Jersey Mike's, I think everyone knows that's open now. They've been doing good business. Also opened the Quill. So I don't know if they're going to have a formal ribbon cutting on that or not, but we did provide all their certificate of occupancy, so they're set to go with that. And on the Enclave Apartments, this is the apartment buildings down by Coburn's. The first building of 100 units will start construction probably the next week. They're closed on construction financing earlier this week, and they've had the pre-construction meeting. I think they're getting everything all queued up to start site construction beginning next week on that one. So that's all I've got here.
Okay.
So I was just looking back at my notes. On the senior housing, we've got the Quill going. I don't know if did we know, this Sweet Living of Hastings, have we referred to that before? But the name maybe is throwing me. Is that new, or is that something we've been referring to and we just didn't throw the name on it?
That might be actually a
I'm
newer
trying to
one on that
remember all
one.
these.
I'll go back. There's 3 total here. So
Yeah, that's what I wanna
We've got
know.
the Quill, which is at Schoolhouse Square. That's complete. We've got, right now it's called Vermilion Acres, but that's the one on County Road 47 in Riverwood.
Yep.
That's under construction with the foundation. They're moving on that one. And then this Sweet Living one was, I think, approved in the last month by the
Okay.
council. That one came in pretty quick on that.
Yeah.
And that's just to the west of Terry's Hardware on the corner. It's a 1-story building, 32 units. It would be assisted living and memory care. They have similar facilities throughout the metropolitan area.
So I know there's kind of a perception out there that we have a lot of seniors and we're a place for seniors, which is not a bad thing, and I'm fitting in that category. How do we, is that an accurate perception? Or I know that the boomers are aging and, our parents are aging, we need more of these, but are we more attractive? Are we getting more of these type of senior living than other communities of our size? Or is it just the market? Because the boomers are aging into that.
Yeah, there's been a large jump in those type of facilities construction over the last 5-10 years. With most construction trends, it seems that we're on the tail end of it. So we've seen a lot of construction of senior units elsewhere in the last few years, and now we're starting to see it here. How much more the market could bear, I don't know. I'm still talking to some people that think, hey, maybe there potentially be more. The one thing when we take a look at the senior housing units, we do have an older population than Dakota County in the metropolitan area. When you provide opportunities for senior living, in town, you can potentially free up housing stock for younger families to come in here. You know, when you take a look at the Quill, for example, those are all going to be independent living units. So basically your standard apartment unit geared towards seniors. So you have 90 units there. If you can get a number of individuals from Hastings taking residence there, you're opening up a number of homes within Hastings for younger families.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because, you know, we heard tonight they're hiring 65 to 75 people. It's not a ton, but I'm sure a lot of those jobs are not going to be really high-end wages. So affordable housing is just, we need to continue to keep our eye on the ball with that. And I do appreciate that. You know, a lot of seniors are moving out of homes that are somewhat affordable. I don't know what's affordable anymore, frankly, because my kid just bought a 1957 Rambler for a ridiculous price. But, you know, I think you know, that is part of, and I continue to advocate, what are we doing for rentals that are affordable? How are we, you know, getting housing stock? And I think turnover is one of those answers.
Yeah. And, you know, on the affordable housing standpoint too, you know, the Enclave project in particular, that's 200 units on the south end of town. I mean, they're, again, affordable can be, you know, when you take a look at what affordable says or what affordable is, it's being geared more towards that market end of it. And so hopefully that'll provide more opportunities for folks to stay in town here.
And I would add on with Lake Isabel Flats Stencil Development or Stencil Group, a similar project that they completed in the city of Northfield. They were very interested when they actually got it leased out. Vast majority were over 50. So while the project is not age restricted, like Schoolhouse Square and that project is age restricted, even just the market bearing itself out in these projects sometimes lend themselves into being kind of senior facilities because they want those amenities, they want to be walkable, and then that turns into kind of a blend of ages, I'll say, even though maybe that wasn't what was required or mandated just from the project.
Okay.
Between the confluence and then we're marketing the 55-acre lot and we've had Jersey Mike's and just a lot of stuff going on around town. How many units are we adding between the Quill, Sweet Living, Vermilion Acres, Lake Isabel Flats, there is the Enclave, and the Seaward Tyler Street Landing Apartment. I mean, that's a lot of different residential buildings that would potentially free up some of that single-family homes. But as far as our employment base, how many units are we adding here with all these projects?
Yeah, the projects just mentioned around 450 units.
And then you got the single family on top of that, which are going to be, in the last couple of years, another 100, 150 above that with finished lots, which we developed over the next couple of years. And we also continue to have conversations with people that are seeking potentially more development down there from either single-family, townhome, or whatnot. So there's a couple of different groups, a couple of different projects I'm in preliminary conversations with now. So the demand still seems to be there.
Yeah, and it was mentioned in terms of the projects, not only from a housing standpoint, from an employment standpoint. You know, we heard earlier today about 60 employees. Fleet Farm, when they opened, they were right around 70 employees. In Tech, assuming that all gets approved and goes through, that's another 46. So that's roughly another 200 jobs within, half of which are already here, basically, and then the other half that we can expect with these projects. So,
Yeah,
we need more people.
It's a really good point, Eric. I mean, you take a look at that type of growth in the job market here. I mean, we haven't seen that on unemployment 10, 15 years. So good growth.
Which is good, because it takes a long time to get the momentum going, and once it starts going, then things start happening, and more people want to get on board with it. That's all we have on our agenda. Is there any other items?
Nothing from staff.
to bring? Okay, if nothing else, look for a motion to adjourn. And second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And that carries. Thank you, everyone.